Hello, everybody. This is the great Johannes speaking for yet another podcast. This is live stream episode 83 already. And before that, I did 110 episodes of the Johannes Tyrannus podcast. And I also have the Great Johannes podcast, which is a series that isn't quite finished. The difference is I started with the Johannes Tyrannus podcast. That was very radical, and I had to professionalize a little bit. So I started over with a new podcast called the Great Johannes podcast. That podcast is where I don't do live streams, where I have an actual story to tell. I sit down for the story and I tell you the story. And for the live streams, I started doing live streams because TikTok allowed me this opportunity. And I started enjoying the live streams. And then I decided kind of to do my podcast live. And that's why I started another series called My Live Streams. But you will find all these videos, all past episodes on my website, jmk.info. Let me briefly show you my credits, my enroll credits up front. Don't mind the other links, but you can see Substack, www.jmk.info. That's where you'll find my whole archive of all my videos and my articles and my music and my book links, because I've written several books as well, notably The Revival of the West. Good evening, Dazo. I've seen you around. I enjoy it when people whose names I remember return to the show, right? So today I'm actually going to talk. The main topic is going to be about Torre Pacheco. I don't know if I pronounce it correctly. It's that town in southeastern Spain, south of Alicante and Valencia. And there's been a bunch of riots going on there. But before I start with the main topic, I have some other things to discuss. Wait, watch. I think, yeah, look, can you see that? So I have this feature in my TikTok live studio where I can do face enhancements. So this is skin smoothing, apparently. I can change the shape. Watch. The shape of my face. Does that work? And maybe the eyes. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's working live. Probably not working real time. Or is it? Teeth. Yeah. Look, I've got bright white teeth all of a sudden. What is it? Contour. See, I was playing around with this, and it's for women. See, so it allows me to smoothen my face, change the contour of my face from like what I am like this to that. So it diminishes my jaw, right? And so it doesn't say, so it just say enhance face. It doesn't say that it's for women. And here I think a lot of men may get really confused. I'll turn it off in a minute, but let me play around with it. For example, I can do really hideous things. Are you ready? Don't be scared. I'm not going to do this for real, of course, but it allows me to do this and this. And then I realized something. This is how young men get sick, because they play around with these app features. And what happens is, it turns them gay. Like they fall in love with their own altered image, and that's how they imagine that they want to be transgender or something. So let me turn all this shit off. I find it absolutely creepy, by the way. Absolutely horrifying. I would say almost that this should be forbidden, this kind of feature, but there's nothing you can do about it, right? Yeah, I speak English pretty well. Donald Johannes Trump. Yeah, I know. Now, before I get to the main topic, I just wanted to give you this warning, because I think these facial manipulation apps are one of the reasons why young people can alter their face looking at themselves. And what happens is they start to like that new face. They start to fall in love with it. And then they want to see it the whole time in the real world as well. And that's how they get trans. That's how they turn gay, I think. Or some of them at least. I'm going to talk about the riots in Spain. Hi, Joe. Hi, Katja. Good evening. Yeah. Nice of you to join. I'm going to talk briefly about different environments that humans grow up in and evolved in with different implications. And then I'll be talking about the riots in Spain for the remainder of the show. What I was listening to was a video by, I think his name was Robert Sapolsky, and he explained some things. Let me show you this image here. So this is an image, as you can see, of a pasture, steppe pastures. And this Robert Sapolsky starts talking about how people in different environments hold different beliefs, or they develop different beliefs. For example, if I can alter the image for you for a moment, because I'm doing this live on my studio system. I don't know if it's going to work out well. Here, I can show you this environment as well. So this is the jungle, the forest jungle. And the thing with the jungle, people living in the jungle, they tend to be polytheistic. So they have a belief in multiple different gods and spirits. The hunter-gatherers, meaning they tend to live in forests and jungles, right? Hunter-gatherers, they have a polytheistic belief, but also a very collectivistic belief. TikTok is making an issue out of my imagery. I can't show you the image. I'll do it without showing the images. There's a pop-up on my screen where I have to appeal to something. It says that my live is no longer is restricted or something. This is really nasty because the difficulty here is TikTok gives me Live Studio, but it won't let me use the features of Live Studio. It punishes me for just showing you that image. It punishes me for that. All right, so imagine the following environments. The jungle and the forest of the hunter-gatherers, they are polytheistic and they tend to be more collectivistic, sorry. Now imagine the agricultural society, grain fields, crop fields. They tend to be a bit more monotheistic and they are not quite collectivistic. Now imagine the pastures for pastoralism, where you have horses and cattle and sheep and so on, grazing, the grazing animals. Turns out that the pastoralists are the most violent people of them all. Pastoralists develop a culture of honor, a culture of violent retribution. They invent warrior classes. They do honor killings. They have vendettas that can stretch for centuries. And they have a sort of Spartan mother who, of course, she loves her baby, but she treats her baby a bit less friendly. She wants her babies to be strong. So babies in pastoralist societies, their mothers speak to them in a louder voice, and they do hold their babies, but not as often as in other cultures. And this creates behavioral differences so that people from pastoralist cultures become a bit more aggressive, more dominant. They become warriors. Also, people from deserts tend to be monotheistic. They develop monotheistic religion. So you see how Europe now today is already a mixture of these two influences. The Christian religion that came from the Middle East, say the desert religions, but at the same time, the Europeans are still these descendants of the pastoralist peoples who have that warrior honor cult system. Especially Germany and also Japan, I must say, they have that patriarchal culture of masculine honor that other societies don't have to the same extent. What I found very interesting, however, is this guy, Robert Sapolsky, starts talking about how we don't have free will. And that's where he lost me, because I do believe I have free will, and I do believe most people have free will. In fact, I was reading this magazine by some high IQ society, the Prometheus Society, where one of these high IQ people claimed, and this is very funny, that people who believe they have free will have free will. People who don't believe they have free will don't have free will. He might be correct about that. This might be the truth. I'm not sure if TikTok punished me for showing you that image. It's really nasty because I show you an image on screen and then TikTok tells me I have to appeal and it won't be promoted anymore. And this and that. Oh, my appeal is approved, it says. All right. This is awkward, man. I have to appeal different times for something. Either way, I'm just going to continue anyway because I'll upload my video to jmk.info and also my YouTube at The Great Johannes. I'll show you my links one more time. People who want to take note, they can, I suppose, pause the stream or something, right? So, this Robert Sapolsky I was just talking about, he mentioned something. He mentioned that people in deserts are monotheistic, and that he also said that people don't have a free will. And there's the thing. Look at my background. It's this urban dystopian setting, right? In the urban dystopia, however, we have a fourth or a fifth environment. So imagine the environments I was just talking about: deserts, forests, jungles, agricultural lands, and pastures. That's five already, I suppose. But then there's cities, and cities bring with them their own human behavioral differences. I dare to argue and reason that people who grow up in these vast urban dystopian settings may, in fact, come to believe that they don't have a free will. And that is because of the machines and the factories and the office life. It is so regimented. Imagine this for a moment, the difference between being a hunter-gatherer and being an office worker in a big city. What's the real difference? The office worker always has a time and a place where he needs to be. At 9:15, your bus leaves. You have to be there at that track. At 5:50 p.m., we go home from work. We have to catch the bus at 6:05, there and there. And you see that the life of complex urban cities is incredibly regimented. It can be so regimented, especially if you work in a factory where you serve machinery, right? So the machinery has its own rhythm, and you as a human being are serving the rhythm of that machinery, right? And because you have to do so, because you as a human being now have to honor the rhythm of the machines all around you, you may end up feeling as though you have a lot less free will or a lot less agency or autonomy than, say, people who are hunter-gatherers or even pastoralists and agriculturalists or even desert dwellers. That's very interesting, because it might imply that people who grow up in cities may be more likely to be atheistic, not because they're right, but because their environment controls them to such an extent they just can't believe that there is a God anymore. They can't believe there is free will anymore. Their lives are so regimented, they have to follow rules and laws and orders way, way more than the hunter-gatherers or the pastoralists, who may have a morality, but it's very different from a law code like the US law code with, I don't know, 3 million laws that you have to abide by, right? Very, very different. And someone mentions the population density also contributes to that, I think, yeah. If you always have to live around so many faces that are unfamiliar, right? You rarely see your own family together. They're all dispersed. Even if your family live in a city like this, you might never see them. It might take hours for you to meet them at the other end of town, right? I've heard stories of a friend who was living in Istanbul in Turkey, and just to get across town to go to the nightlife area could take you like 1 or 2 hours just to get there, right? Which is bizarre, I think. And so I come to the conclusion that perhaps big urban cities make people believe there is no God because they replace the belief in God for a belief in technology. And they replace the belief in their free will with the belief in following the rules, following the order, right? But our urban setting is now the dominant one. The majority of human beings on Earth now live in big cities or live in cities. And that has an implication, namely that our grander human culture is becoming more like that. It's becoming more atheistic, less with a lower sense, a decreased sense of agency or autonomy, right? Yeah, people who live in hell don't believe in God. Yeah, the urban hell, the urban industrial hell. All right. Some parts of cities are absolutely nice, of course, but I think perhaps if you live, there large portions of big cities nowadays are just so ugly. We sometimes make fun of the Russians and their communist buildings, but it's really no different in a place like the Netherlands. We also have that style of building that is just horrid. All right. But let's get to the main topic. I've been saving it all this time. I've been speaking for 15 minutes or so, and I haven't even spoken about the main topic. Torre Pacheco, that town in southeastern Spain, south of, in the region of Murcia, I don't know if I pronounced the word Torre Pacheco. I don't know if that's the name of it. I don't know if I pronounced these words correctly. But there's been riots there, massive riots, and I've written something about this that I want to read to you. It's a bit of a monologue, and I'll try to keep it interactive if I see your comments. But let me just go through my story here that I wanted to tell you. It could be a bit long, maybe 10 minutes or so. And then there's room for more interaction with the commenters, and we can talk about all sorts of things that pop up after that. Locals from the Spanish town of Torre Pacheco, located in the country's southeastern region of Murcia, just south of Valencia and Alicante, decided not to lavish violent Moroccan migrants with praise, but rather to hunt them down and to teach them a lesson after violent youths brutally attacked an elderly man. Yet, the Western mainstream media, all in unison, decided to cry foul and to accuse native Spaniards of being organized right-wing extremists. But why? The hunt for violent migrants triggers fear, not only in the migrant populations, but especially in the leftist extremists professing a sort of white man's burden, in that they think that white people are supposed to be responsible babysitters while immigrant children burn down our cities. In the town of Torre Pacheco, a town with a population of just 35,000 people, over 30% of the inhabitants are now migrants, most of those from Morocco, and many of them illegal. Despite Morocco being a relative safe haven, it's not a war zone, and Morocco is not being bombed by the West either. That's what they always give you as the argument, right? If you would stop bombing our countries, we wouldn't come to the West. But we're not bombing the countries that most migrants are coming from, so that's not a valid argument. Moroccans have simply given birth to too many children in their country without caring to offer them a future in their meaningless economy. That's no one else's fault but their own. And it certainly isn't the responsibility of Europeans to now absorb Morocco's unwanted young males. Let's not even make the distinction between legal and illegal immigration. Every non-European migrant is one too many in Europe. The European Union seems to have adopted the dogma of George Soros and his Open Society foundations that Europe must absorb 1 million migrants per year, minimum, and supposedly indefinitely, until white Europeans have either been erased or civil war settles the score. Well, civil war has arrived. Southern Spain, apart from its tourist destination, isn't considered a rich region of the world either. So when violent Moroccan thugs beat up a grandfatherly man, a 68-year-old, his bludgeoned eyes sparked a flame in the hearts of local Spaniards. Genetic memories of the Reconquista must have driven their actions, perhaps guided by the spirit of El Cid, Campeador. Who could blame them? But does a spontaneous response qualify to call these locals right-wing extremists, as even American media have done, NBC Media, for example, CNN, just because their actions were announced in a Telegram group or a WhatsApp group? No, these locals, the local Spaniards, likely have no political affiliations other than being fed up with the uncontrolled violence of an increased number of unwanted guests. Why, after all, should any people sit by idly while foreign people with the full protection of the law can somehow take over one's own town? The white native backlash over unwanted immigrants does threaten to pop the liberal feel-good bubble. It turns out there are limits to diversity, and Europeans aren't naturally going to allow foreign hordes to extinguish them with higher birth rates and racially motivated sexual violence. Western leftists are so embedded in their woolly vanity project called diversity and inclusion that they refuse to accept that migrants can be perpetrators too. They prefer explaining away any backlash against violent foreigners, rapists, murderers, thieves, and other cognitively impaired weirdos by claiming that the migrants are the real victims. How does that even work? This, they say, is because violent extremist migrants really are like small children who need to be raised and educated into Europe's future doctors and engineers. Though IQ tests already prove otherwise. It's not going to happen. We can all suspect that Western feminism, which has put many liberal women into positions of power, plays a role here. Instead of using their power to protect their own people, these white feminist women are guided by their frustrated mothering instincts and instead choose to provide cover for violent animals. It's a form of Stockholm syndrome whereby the victim chooses her own perpetrator. Yeah, someone says Spain is a beautiful country and diversity will destroy all the beauty. Yeah, totally agree. Our justice systems all over the Western world have drafted up excuse after excuse to exonerate insane levels of migrant violence. In Germany, for example, one judge told a girl who was gang raped by 8 foreigners taking turns for over 3 hours that her rapists were simply traumatized by the fact that they migrated to Germany, and therefore they should not be punished harshly. When someone took to the internet to complain about this verdict, that person was sentenced to a month longer in prison than the rapists due to alleged hate speech. So you get more crime for hate speech than more time for hate speech than for a gang rape. It is indeed considered hate speech for a German to say they love Germany. Yeah, what a backward society we have become. See, the liberal consensus is that when white men rape, it's because of their ingrained genetic whiteness. Because white men, as everybody knows, are born inferior beings whose only remedy for their evil is to be sent to jail, castrated, killed, or purged in an oven. But when brown men commit more heinous crimes at far greater frequencies, both in relative and increasingly in absolute numbers, liberal judges will staunchly acquit those foreign sickos on the grounds that they suffer from a range of cognitive impairments, including having a low IQ, having a trauma, or being actually inbred. This is one of those hard to understand features of the Western justice system. It says that people who cannot be held responsible for their violent actions must therefore be let loose among the public so that they can strike again and harm even more people. Instead of directing violent migrants to permanent supervision in mental hospitals, we unleash them upon the next unsuspecting victims without warning. Yeah, most of Europe is in self-destruct mode, thanks to the left, yeah. There is a deliberateness to this. One suspects that Western judiciaries have received orders from above, not only to acquit murderous foreigners, but to criminalize natives who dare to resist. It is perhaps all part of the mystical Kalergi plan to set native European women and girls up for their industrial-scale mass rape. By protecting foreign combatants and their sexual terrorism, we are effectively orchestrating the mass rape of Europe. Testament to the European character, our morale hasn't been broken yet. When the locals of Torre Pacheco took to the streets, they vowed to burn down the hallmarks of Islamic squatter colonialism, namely the proverbial kebab and mosque, the barracks of Islamic hate. Leftists politicians now blame right-wing politicians of Spain's Vox party for escalating the riots. Vox recently announced their plan to deport at least 8 million migrants from Spain, including migrants' children born in Spain. It is an example all of Europe should follow. Europeans should counteract the twisted Soros Open Society plot by doubling the number of deportations to at least 2 million per year across Europe. The idea that Europe should have to absorb the discarded low-quality populations from the rest of the world needs to die an ignominious death. Not all ideas are equal, and diversity and multiculturalism stand out as particularly moronic. The leader of Spain's Vox party, Mr. Santiago Abascal, responded to leftist accusations by saying that the migrant rapes and knife stabbings had been entirely the left's fault, and I agree. We can only hope that Torre Pacheco becomes Europe's ground zero in the war against unwanted immigrants. However, I feel that street violence can only be so effective. The real target for our backlash ought to be that weird liberal psychology that insists migrants are poor and needy people who need our help. It's time to confront the mentally feeble leftists in charge of our institutions with this reality that single male migrants are, by and large, in practice, hostile foreign combatants. They are enemy soldiers. They didn't come here for help. They came to exploit and rape and get away with it because we let them. We Europeans still possess every means necessary to throw them out of our countries. We have every moral right to defend our homelands. There is no reason to submit ourselves to the fantasies of self-hating liberal elites. So let us take after the brave Spaniards, brace for impact, and revolt. Wow, I always do my speeches like that, and near the end of it, I feel relieved, or what do you call it, elated even. I feel great. Like I get to say what I really want to say about something, and that's important. And that's why I do this. That's why I have this intrinsic motivation to always come back and do my live shows, even though they don't get that many viewers. Right? I still do them because I notice, people need to speak up, and I happen to enjoy doing so. Yes, I'll keep speaking the truth there. They all need to go. You've had enough. Yeah, same. And it's not so much the average migrant that is my problem. My problem is our government acquitting migrant criminals on the grounds that they are migrant criminals, which is insane. If there were some law and order to it, if migrants who rape our girls are simply deported, and that wouldn't be a large number, would it? A couple of thousand a year in a country like Spain or so. It would be so much easier psychologically to deal with mass immigration. But it is that insistence of the left that every migrant is an innocent poor person who can do no wrong. And that is a crime. There are obviously migrants doing wrong. And why don't we deport them, especially if they haven't even been naturalized yet? Imagine guys who just arrived here and within a week they rape a girl. What do you do with a guy like that? You deport him. He's not even a citizen of our country. Why can't we remove them? No, in Britain, for example, they come up with excuse after excuse, one after the after, more ridiculous than the one before. They say things like, oh, this poor migrant can't eat chicken nuggets in his own country. What? Oh, this poor migrant, he would be prosecuted for rape in his own country. Yeah, duh, he's a rapist. All right? Oh, this poor migrant. I don't know. Think of it an excuse, and they've probably already used it in Britain. By the way, the two I just mentioned are real. They really did that. It's ridiculous. Like, Britain is showing us what a fallen state looks like. The way they treat criminal migrants, including the ones who haven't even been naturalized yet, who don't have the passport of the land they live in, right? Why can't we get rid of them? I personally would just deport them. And, even if they throw away their passports, I would just send them back to the embassy in their own country to get a new passport. I mean, why are you here, right? I would also deport their families in all likelihood. Because we need to send a message, a sort of message that says, yeah, we can welcome guests to our country, but we're not importing rapists and murderers. If that's what we're getting, those will be sent back, right? And the argument that, well, there's also white rapists. Yeah, right? But we punish those. We send them to jail. Why can't we do that with migrants? Why are there excuses that say, oh, this poor migrant raped a woman in a gang rape for 8 hours with, 12 accomplices, but we can't punish him because he was traumatized by the fact that he migrated to another country. What? This is insane, right? Someone said, in Britain, you're in Britain, and one was not sent back because he would be forced to shave his beard. That's what I mean. They cook up these insane, illegal reasons that dismantle, they undermine the justice system. You're undermining the justice system, right? You can't do it like that. You have to have a sort of sense of law and order so that the natives of Britain can know, okay, we are protected from rapists and murderers and knife killers. Why is London a knife killer capital? How come the mayor of London pretended recently that he didn't know what grooming gangs were, and then it was explained to him that these are gang rapists, and then he pretended not to have heard of this? How can you be like that? He knows damn well that because he's Pakistani, he knows damn well that his own people are the number one suspects in the gang rapes in the UK, and yet he pretends not to know about it. That's filthy, man. That is really filthy. See, that's what makes people angry, because you go against what is normal, what is, what we call justice. You are undermining the whole notion of justice. Yeah, they want even more here, and they want us flooded. There's an agenda at play. Yeah, crazy. The English government is like a South Park sketch. Yeah. I suppose Spain is going to be different. If Spain's Vox party wins power, they're going to deport millions of people. So Spain is a bit different in this respect. Or at least I hope so. I hope for Spain that they can do that, right? All right. I suppose so, yeah. When Zionists replace the white population with migrants, they kill two birds with one stone. Yeah, they get to deport Arabs from the Middle East, bring them over here, right? And reduce our people as well. And for some reason, they think that's the benefit. They think that's what they need to do. Look, we don't even need to speculate about the reasons behind it, but it's obvious that certain people from the Middle East hate us to the core of our being, although they can't never really explain why. They hate us, and they want us completely erased. 500 or 700 million white people, they just want us dead. That's the impression you get, right? It is definitely an agenda for Western Europe, right? There's nothing the left can do that will stop the anti-migrant wave. No, it's getting started. I mean, people have had enough of this, man. Who was the guy who said, "Why are you living in the desert where there's no food?" Okay, I don't know. I don't know where this quote comes from. Certainly is an interesting quote. Yeah. Hi, thanks for following my channel. I saw somebody following the creator. Yeah, thank you very much. All right. I was a comedian who said so. Okay. All right. I believe that. All right. Here I can show you my links for a moment. So you can go to my YouTube at The Great Johannes, for example. My X account is at JohannesMKX. I have a Substack at jmk.info. My Substack is my most important location. That's where I gather all my content, all my videos, all my books, and so on. Even some music. I also produce music sometimes. If you want to donate one-time donation or so, here's some options: Give, Send, Go, PayPal me, buy me a coffee. And of course, I'm setting up my Rumble. My Rumble account is at JohannesMK. I'm uploading my past videos, and once I've uploaded my whole archive, it will take me a while. Then I will start posting all videos regularly there as well. Then once I get up to speed there. So in case you wanted to connect with me, here's some options here. Right. Yeah, you enjoyed my content. Yeah, hopefully we'll see more. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up because I'll be back tomorrow again. I'm gonna do sessions of like 30 to 45 minutes, not too long. And I might sometimes on the weekends do like longer live sessions, 2 hours or so, but that will be more casual on the weekend, just for fun. And this video, I will post it to my YouTube at The Great Johannes, and also my Substack at jmk.info. You can watch the replay there or download it and post it all over the place, right? So one more question. Yeah, the only people who don't mind mass migration are those in the middle class who don't live with them, right? Exactly. It's a luxury belief. We have to welcome refugees, but I don't have to live with them, right? That's how it is, right? All right, people. It was fun. Have a good evening, and Have a good life. Bye bye.